Hello and welcome back to Star Learners. In this week's special Star Learners Speedy session, we're going to be discussing the difference between asteroids, meteors and comets in light of the recent Geminids Meteor Shower. The Geminids, which get their name from the constellation Gemini, provide some of the best shooting stars. This year, the Geminids Meteor Shower peaked on the 13th and 14th of December, and the skies for about a week long were lit up with green and red shooting stars in the darker areas. But what I want to focus on today is what the difference between a meteor, an asteroid, and a comet is. Okay, so in our solar system, there is an asteroid belt, and it's essentially a tunnel of moving large pieces of rock. And this lies between Mars and Jupiter. And now the gravity from Jupiter was too strong for these pieces of rock to sort of form their own planet or join another planet. So they kind of just float around. But this tunnel isn't exactly an easy route. These pieces of rock often bang into each other and crash, and it causes some bits to fly off out of their tunnel. So they can collide with each other and then get knocked off course and leave the asteroid belt and then just fly through space. So these space rocks, when they're still really big, are called asteroids. The smaller space rocks are called meteoroids, and when they fly through Earth's atmosphere, they're called meteors. If the meteors make it through Earth's atmosphere and don't burn up or break up and they land on Earth, then we call them meteorites. And the main difference between asteroids and comets is that asteroids are usually made up of rock and metal, whereas comets are made up of small bits of rock, dust, and ice. So comets usually are created further away from the sun, so they contain ice that wouldn't melt. But when they come close to the sun, they often sprout these tails because the ice is melting and it leaves a sort of vapor behind them. Whereas asteroids are made closer to the sun, so they don't often have ice in them, and then they don't often have that tail. So asteroids don't commonly have tails. However, some do. In fact, the source of the Geminid Meteor Shower has a tail, and that's because when it comes close to the sun, the materials and the water vapor on the comet's surface start to melt and turn into a vapor, and that's what you see when you see those shooting stars from the Geminid Meteor Shower. It's the water vapor creating that lovely glowing tail. So just beyond Jupiter and surrounding Saturn, Uranus and Neptune are two icy belts. So that's where this ice comes from, a lot further away from the sun within our solar system. This ice is created, and the same situation with the asteroid belt happens, and they can get knocked off and the ice can then make its way all the way to the sun. So the icy belt on the far side of Neptune, furthest away from us, is called the Kuiper belt, and that is also where our dwarf planet Pluto lives. And even more of these ancient icy potential comets live in something called the Oort cloud, which surrounds our solar system, and they too will get knocked off course and make it all the way into our solar system, past our planets and towards the sun. Most of these comets will bang into other planets or hit other asteroids or big bits of space rock. Those that make it to the sun will turn into vapor as they hit the sun and never be seen again. And some of them will sort of get caught in the sun's gravity and sling back around the sun and then go past the snow belt and back into the Oort cloud. The early Earth was hit by so many comets and asteroids, and it's actually thought that that's how water and life was brought to Earth in the first place, because these comets contain ice. When they landed or they hit, it brought water to our planet. And as well as this, lots of meteors contain iron or other metals, which is why we now have them on our planet too. Okay, let's go over what we've learned. Asteroids are the big space rocks. The smaller ones are meteoroids. If they enter Earth's atmosphere, they are meteors, and if they land on Earth, they are meteorites. And comets are icy bits of space rock, so they get the tail because the ice melts and turns into vapor, leaving a lovely tail behind them. Thank you for watching this week's special Star Learners Speedy session. Don't forget to subscribe.